In our second video, we discussed how Kashmir was integrated into Indian Union. But the story didn't end there. Though Maharaja Hari Singh signed the instrument of accession, the integration was incomplete, since the stable government was yet to be delivered. In this video, we will discuss the troubles in Kashmir during its initial years. Let us first look at the situation of Kashmir as a state of Indian Union. After the integration of Kashmir, Sheikh Abdullah, who was leading National Conference, was in firm control of the administration of Jammu and Kashmir. But the status of territory was still under dispute. In 1950, United Nations asked Pakistan to withdraw their army from Kashmir so that plebiscite can be conducted. But Pakistan refused to do so, and plebiscite never happened. The Indian Constitution, which came into effect in January 1950, treated Kashmir as part of the Indian Union. However, it guaranteed the state a certain autonomy. Thus, Article 370 specified that the President would consult the state government with regard to the subjects other than defense, foreign affairs, and communications. Meanwhile, Sheikh Abdullah had also started dreaming independent Kashmir. He went on to ask US ambassador whether the US would support independent Kashmir or not. In truth, while he was still revered in the Kashmir Valley, he was becoming quite unpopular among the Hindus of Jammu region, who were keen to merge their part of the state with the Indian Union as quickly as possible. In 1949, a Praja Parishad, that is People's Party, was formed to represent the interests of Jammu Hindus. It was led by a 70-year-old veteran, Prem Nath Dogra. In October 1951, elections were held to the Kashmir Constitution Assembly. The Praja Parishad had decided to contest, but early on the nomination papers of several of their candidates were found to be invalid. In protest, they chose to boycott the election. All 75 seats were won by Abdullah's National Conference. Let us now discuss the autonomy given to the Kashmir. In January 1951, Abdullah wrote to the Minister of States that the Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly would discuss the question of accession of the state, the question of retention or abolition of the ruler as a constitutional head, and the question of framing of a constitution for the state, including the question of defining the sphere of union jurisdiction over the state. He added that the assembly would take decisions on all the issues specified above. Decisions the Government of India must treat as binding on all concerned. This suggested that Kashmir's accession to India was not final. As an Alam Minister of States noted in the margins of the letter, the Sheikh's interpretation was perhaps going beyond what we said. Abdullah also contemplated to make Kashmir an Eastern Switzerland, a state aloof from both countries but having friendly relationship with them. He met an American politician who was a tourist in Kashmir and discussed American pattern for Kashmir tourism industry. Meanwhile, discussions continued about the precise status of Kashmir vis-a-vis Indian Union. In July, Sheikh met Nehru in Delhi and also had a round of meetings with other ministers. They hammered out a compromise known as Delhi Agreement, whereby Kashmiris would become full citizens of India in exchange for an autonomy far greater than that enjoyed by other states of the Union. Thus, the new state flag devised by National Conference would be flown alongside the national flag of India. Crucially, those from outside the state were prohibited from buying land or property within it. This measure was aimed at forestalling attempts to change the demographic profile of the valley through large-scale immigration. Delhi could not send in forces to quell internal disturbances without the consent of Srinagar. Where, with regard to other states, residuary powers rested with the centre. In the case of Kashmir, these would remain with the state. These were major concessions, but the Sheikh pressed for greater powers still. In a speech in the state's Constituent Assembly, he said only the state could decide what powers to give away to the Union or what jurisdiction the Supreme Court would have in Kashmir. Among these terms were the retention of state flag and designation of the head of government as Prime Minister. Neither was acceptable to Praja Parishad of Jammu, asking for complete integration of Kashmir into India. They had adopted the slogan Ek Vidhan, Ek Pradhan, Ek Nishan, meaning one constitution, one head of state, one flag. Processions and marches, as well as clashes with police, became frequent. Once more, the jails of Jammu began to fill with the volunteers of Praja Parishad. In the Kashmir Valley, Jamindars had been dispossessed of land in excess of the ceiling limit due to the land reforms. As it happened, the large landlords in the Kashmir Valley were almost all Hindus. This gave an unfortunate religious hue to what was essentially a project of socialist redistribution and increased the rift between Kashmir Muslims and Jammu Hindus. The increasing autonomy gave rise to the agitations which commenced the arrest and unrest in Kashmir. Praja Parishad was already agitating against the National Conference. Here was a situation made to order for a politician in search of a cause. And it found one in Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, who was to make the struggle of the Dogras of Jammu his own. Dr. Mukherjee was founder of Bharatiya Jana Sangha. He began his charge with a series of blistering attacks on the government in Parliament, asking, who made Sheikh Abdullah the King of Kings in Kashmir? In autumn of 1952, Dr. Mukherjee visited Jammu and made several speeches in support of the Praja Parishad movement. He said that their demands were just and patriotic. He promised to secure Constitution of the India for them. He then went to Srinagar, where he had a most contentious meetings with Sheikh Abdullah. The support of National Party and national leader had given much encouragement to the Dogras. On 8th May 1953, Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee boarded a train to Jammu en routing to Srinagar. He had planned to take his satyagraha deep into enemy territory. Anticipating trouble, the state government issued orders prohibiting him from entering. Mukherjee disregarded the order and crossed the border on the morning of the 11th May. The police requested him to return, and when he refused, police arrested him and took him to Srinagar jail. On 22nd June, he had a heart attack and died the following day. When the news reached the town, an angry mob attacked and looted a government arts emporium and set fire to the government offices. Meanwhile, in Delhi, a crowd gathered at Ajmeri Gate wearing black badges, waving black flags and shouting, "Khoon ka badla khoon se lenge," meaning, blood will be avenged by blood. The anger persisted for days. On 5th July, a portion of Dr. Mukherjee's ashes arrived in the capital. These were carried in massive processions by the Janasangha through the old city, with the marchers shouting the slogans of revenge and insisting that Kashmir Hamara hai, meaning Kashmir is ours. The popular movement led by Dr. Mukherjee planted the seed of independence in Sheikh Abdullah's mind. The outcry following his death seems only to have nurtured it. Sensing this, Nehru wrote two long emotional letters recalling their old friendship and India's ties to Kashmir. He asked Abdullah to come down to Delhi and meet him. The Sheikh did not oblige. Then Nehru sent Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad to Srinagar. But that didn't help either. The Sheikh's turnabout greatly alarmed the Prime Minister. By now, the government of Kashmir was divided within itself, its members liable to pull in different directions and proclaiming entirely different policies. Some leaders, such as G.M. Sadiq, were left-wing anti-Americans. They disapproved of the Sheikh's talks with US politicians. Others, like Bakshi Ghulam Muhammad, had ambitions of ruling Kashmir themselves. There was now an open rift within the National Conference between the pro-India and the pro-independence groups. The latter were led by the Sheikh's close associate, Mirza Afzal Beg. The former were in close touch with Sadr-e-Rasyad Karan Singh. It was rumored that Sheikh Abdullah would declare independence on 21st August, the day of the great Eid festival, following which he would seek the protection of United Nations against Indian aggression. 2 weeks before that, Abdullah dismissed a member of his cabinet. This gave the others in the pro-India faction an excuse to move against him. Led by Bakshi Ghulam Muhammad, they wrote a letter accusing Sheikh of encouraging sectarianism and corruption. A copy of the letter was also sent to Karan Singh. He in turn dismissed Abdullah and invited Bakshi Ghulam Muhammad to form a government in his place. Bakshi Ghulam Muhammad made it quite clear that he could not undertake to run the government if the Sheikh and Beg were left free to propagate their views. Abdullah was served his walking papers in the early hours of the morning. When he was woken up and handed the letter of dismissal, the Sheikh flew into a rage. The police then told him that he had not just been dismissed, but also placed under the arrest. He was given 2 hours to say his prayers and pack his belongings before being taken off to jail. Arrest of Sheikh Abdullah was not welcomed by Kashmiri Muslims, and there was some unrest among them. On 30th October 1956, the State Constituent Assembly adopted a constitution for the state, declaring it an integral part of the Indian Union. However, even this couldn't pacify the unrest. Could things have turned out otherwise? Perhaps if Sheikh Abdullah and Shyama Prasad Mukherjee had acted with responsibility and restraint. Arrests and unrest started in 1953 are continuing till date in minor or major forms. Here is the timeline for the Kashmir trouble from 1948 to 1956. In our next video, we will discuss the tribal trouble related to the Nagaland and Jharkhand. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and comment, because discussion is solution. For more discussions, please subscribe our channel.